In this video, we're going to be going over tips and tricks for your overworld crafts, English search crafting, and even the language that a lot of top runners use to refine their search crafts as much as possible. The first type of quick crafting we're going to talk about is typically done in the overworld before entering the Nether. The type of seed that we get, as well as the materials we're given from each structure, will impact what order we create tools and which tools we actually need to create. For example, if we're doing an ocean seed, we're going to need to create doors in order to get into the Nether, but for other seeds, we won't need them. So the other thing is quite a small nuanced thing, but certain seeds like villages or shipwrecks, the first 2 wood you're going to get is probably punched by hand. Whereas Desert Temple, you're going to blow it up with TNT and get a large stack of it, probably more than 2. Now, this can impact small things about the order in which you're going to craft things or how you're going to do it. So if I just pull these materials, these are pretty typical materials you're going to get in the overworld, right? The first thing you're going to want to do is create the crafting table. So if we have just 2 logs here, for example, that we punched, we can pull it in with our hotkey. So for me right here, this is going to be my X key because it's the 7th slot. But typically it's going to be the 1 slot because it's the first thing you do. You're punching that first wood as soon as you get to the village, right? You pull it in with your hotkey, shift click, which will pull it down to whatever the latest open slot is. So it's usually your 9 slot. And then you can pull it back by pressing that hotkey, pick it up with left click, make your crafting table. And this is where things are going to change a little bit. If you only have the 2 wood, once you've made that first crafting table, instead of just shift clicking, you can hold left click and drag down in this column to make a stick layer with it as well. So if I were to shift click here, I'd get the crafting table and sticks. Now, if we have more wood than that, if I have 3, let's say, and I pull it up here, we can't do it by doing that because we're going to make way too many sticks. So instead, we're going to make the crafting table and then we're going to hold right click, drag down, let go, and hold right click and drag up. And that'll do 2 stacks of sticks and 1 crafting table. Another cool trick, if you have a lot of logs, you can put them in here. And if you want to keep it organized, you can actually press a hotkey to pull one of the outputs down here. And that'll just organize it when you shift click. It'll be in that same hotkey so that you can go back and add it in. And then if you do have too many logs, instead of what I just showed, you can create the crafting table, add 2, and then put the rest of them down in the other corner, and then just shift click twice. Now, be aware, if you shift click too many times, there is a risk that you turn all the planks into buttons, which is something you need to look out for. So the other nuanced thing is we have a lot of iron here, obviously, but on a seed where we don't have a lot of iron, let's say we're given 8 out of a shipwreck, this isn't enough to make full iron tools. We can make a pickaxe and a shovel, but then once we make our bucket, we only have enough for a flint and steel as well, right? You can kind of envision with what we have here. So 8 isn't enough to do that. So what you would do instead is you'd pull your sticks up to start making your tools with your hotkey. You'd put them down here. I'm not holding anything right now. You right click on this stack to split it and you place it here. And then we pull up our iron or whatever we're going to do for a tool. So if you happen to have cobblestone, but not a lot of iron, like I mentioned before, then you would pull your cobblestone up first and you would make your axe. But a lot of the time you're not going to have cobble until you've actually, made tools. So that's where you would instead pull your iron up first, place 1 for the shovel, and then drag a line to make your pickaxe and your shovel like that, right? And then you would go down, mine your cobblestone, and the rest would happen. Now, where this changes a little bit, let me just make another stack of sticks quickly. And we're going to put this in the chest. Where this changes a little bit is if we have our sticks here like this, and we have if we already had the cobblestone, instead of doing the iron tools first like that, we're going to pull up the cobblestone first to make our axe because it just helps with our order. So once we get the axe, we're going to drop it down there. We're going to pull the iron up to where we did and then make these other tools. That gives us all 3 tools we need to make, but we still have sticks left in the crafting table. So from here, we hold shift and double click, which will pull it back into our inventory. And now we can make our bucket. And this is the other cool part. If we have enough iron left over and we want to stack shears, instead of just doing the bucket, we can do bucket and shears at the same time by double clicking that iron in there. If you have exactly 6 iron, you can actually use a trick where you hotkey it here, split the stack in half by right clicking, put 1 in the left side and then 2 at the bottom. And this will make a bucket, shears, and you can hotkey a flint and steel for the last one if you have the flint. But another thing you'll see, which comes in handy with these, is you can just press shift click in here and it'll pull it up into the top slots. Now this doesn't work in your 2x2 menu, it only works in the 3x3. A slightly more advanced variation of this quick crafting is when you're using this search crafting book in order to do it. I believe people call this search craft space, but in order to get to it, you press tab and press the space bar and it'll open your search craft menu. You want to make sure this is highlighted blue. If you do this in the crafting menu, you press tab once again to highlight this, you can start crafting things just like this. So we make our boat. And then if you go to the center of the crafting table and press space again, it'll bring you right to the item. So you can just hold shift and click it and then press space again to pull you back into the center of that crafting menu and then space again. And you can kind of just toggle between them and keep crafting things that you might want, right? So if we place down the planks and we pull up the sticks now, and then quickly split it like that, pull our iron up, it's just a quick way of doing this sort of back and forth instead of having to actually move over there, which saves you a little bit of time, right? Now this search crafting book can also be used to optimize other portions of your run, crafting items you'd commonly use. My friend Gas is an awesome runner who's helping me out with this, so show him some love on his channel if you want to see more Minecraft tips and tricks.
Alright, I'll be covering the most useful search crafts in English. We're going to kick things off with the absolute essentials. As we go, you can follow my exact live inputs in the bottom left corner using the keyboard display. If things move a bit too fast, don't worry, you can always rewatch this later. That aside, let's get right into it. Let's start with the fortress split. There are 4 crucial items to look at here: beds, anchors, bow, and pickaxe. While pickaxe are optional and you won't always have the material for them, it's always good to know the crafts when you do. For beds, we're going to search using BE. For spawn anchor, use AW. For the bow, type in OW or use BOW if you want junkless crafts. For pickaxe, I personally use XE, but I highly recommend learning KA for junkless setups. Next up is the bastion, which boils down to 3 main crafts: the axe, the sword, and beds. To pull up iron, I usually use RO or just R. If you're going for a junkless craft, use ON with space I. For the iron axe, I personally use XE. For the iron sword, I either use RD or 5 while holding caps. It's a very similar process for the stone tools, except for the stone sword. You'll need to hit 4 instead of 5. Because of that, I highly recommend just learning RD. If you prefer running junkless craft here, type in ON with space combined with either E for iron, A for the axe, and SW for the sword. Same applies for the stone tools, but instead of using ON with space, use E with space, and the same as we did for the iron crafts. Now that you know the essentials, let's look at some highly useful utility crafts. When you're running from the bastion to the fortress, you can use R space or ER to quickly craft nether bricks. Alternatively, you can search NE to craft both nether bricks and glowstone at the same time. For wall crafting, you could use WO. However, I don't actually advise search crafting wall. If you need to drop a single string for your bow later, hitting your drop button might accidentally type in into the search menu instead of throwing the item. To prevent that, you always need to click anywhere else to unhover from the text box menu first. Then, let's wrap up with some handy 2x2 grid crafting. For sticks, typing ICK, CK, or IC will do the trick. All of those variations are completely junkless in the 2x2 menu, but keep in mind they won't be junkless if you try to use them in 3x3 crafting table menu. For flint and steel, you can use either EE or T with space in the 2x2 crafting grid. And lastly, for the eyes of Ender, use EN, F with space, or ER for a clean junkless 2x2 craft.
Alright, thanks Gas once again for showing us English search crafts. Now I'm going to show you guys this website, which will be in the description. If you come have a look at this, it'll just give you the best inputs to find junkless crafts. So I put English up here, and you can look here, all of these inputs will give you a junkless craft. So at gold ingots or iron ingots here, if you type NGO, it'll give you a junkless craft, whereas if you just typed GO in the search craft, it gives you all this added junk, which defeats the purpose of search crafting to begin with. Now, where this website might come in handy for you guys is if any of Gas's keybinds or if any of that didn't work for you, you can come look at these options like space I or GOT, and they're also junkless search crafts. So you won't get all that added garbage, but this might work better for your brain than something Gas has said, right? So keep this website in mind for that. The other added bonus, you'll notice here that English has 15 unique characters needed for any of these. Now, top runners don't always use English. In fact, a lot of them have switched to other languages. So how refined can you make these searches? If we have a look at Swiss German language or Schweizerdeutsch, I think that's how you say it. I don't know. I took a guess. Let me know how I did. But if you have a look at this, you only need 12 unique characters. But my problem with it is that A, I don't speak this language, so it's going to be really hard to remember. And B, there's still 3 letters needed to get a refined search for a lot of these items, like golden carrots, ingots, bows, respawn anchors. Anything like this needs 3 letters as well, even though the unique characters needed are far less, which makes it easier to rebind on your keyboard. But that's where this language comes into play, Norwegian or Norge. If you have a look here, there's only 14 unique characters needed, and these are only ever max 2 letters to get a refined junkless craft, which is why it's highly regarded by a lot of top runners as the best search craft language. So by no means am I a professional on this, but I'm going to try to work with you guys to see, I mean, maybe we can figure it out together. I'm just going to show you what I've kind of discovered with it, and then you take it and do with it as you please. But one thing I have noticed is that this language, because it's so closely related to English, a lot of the names are easy enough to pick up on as an English speaker. So for example, Gulbar, or I mean, Nether is part of the Minecraft world, but Veitvul, like a lot of these, you can kind of look at them and just by sounding it out, you can be like, okay, that's what that is, right? Even though I'm probably saying them wrong, but in my brain, I'm able to understand it. So that might be helpful for you guys as well. Mind you, some of them are just like I don't even know what that is, so sorry. But some of them you're not going to get. But if you hang in there with me, the other aspect of this, it being 2 letters is super useful, right? For the ingots, for the eyes, for anything like that, just having the 2 letters to press might save you some time because it's only 2 inputs that you need to rebind, which I'm actually going to show you right now. So here we are in game. The first thing you're going to want to do is switch your language. So if you come options language and then scroll down maybe 2/3 of the way, you'll see Norge here. But if you're playing on MCSR ranked, which is where I'm assuming you're going to use this, you're going to want to do it in your standard settings as well, where you go into the standard settings, press Control F, search for language, and then do the same thing to make sure that it's always this language when you load into our world. Now, the next thing I'm going to mention, I am by no means a professional with this. So everything from here on out, disclaimer, it's probably not perfect advice, but we're figuring it out together, okay? All right, let me show you really quickly what you need to do in tool screen now. So if you pull up this menu with Control I, you go to Advanced Inputs Keyboard, and then Enable Key Rebinding. And then we can open our keyboard layout. If you don't know what this is, I do have a guide specifically on tool screen, so feel free to go check that out. But you'll see here, I have this little O with a slash already rebinded to my usual O button. And the only other one you need for Norwegian is this little A with a circle over it. And I'll show you how to do it. Basically, copy it from that website that I've given you down below and find which ones you're going to actually use. So the A is only really used for the flint and steel, so you don't really necessarily need it because a lot of people just craft that in their menu anyways. But to show you how it works, if you right click on a letter, split rebind, and then in the type section, just go to custom and paste it in that custom, and then you can click apply. Now this will allow you to type that, but it won't actually input it in game. So as you can see, it still does my thin macro, but if I go to type anything, it does that little A button instead. The other rebind I wanted to show you is the home button. So I've set mine to my Windows key just because I don't ever want the Windows key to pull me out of the game. But if you right click this, press full rebind, pick, nav, home, that'll allow you to do something which I'm going to show you very, very quickly. Oh, I will also just mention that in this menu, these are by no means the perfect keybinds for this. You would have noticed Gas changed some of these to be sort of sequential letters to help him remember. So things like wool or glowstone, you can put them, anything 2 letters, you can put them like back to back on these keybinds as long as you're not using them for anything else. And it'll be super helpful. And because this is in the type menu, yes, F is your offhand, G is for like your chunk borders and stuff like that. But in the crafting menu, you're typing anyways, so it won't make a difference. So you can still rebind them as a split rebind, and it'll still be optimal, right? So I'm not going to show you the best setup for that because quite honestly, I don't know it yet. I haven't been practicing with this language long enough to show you the ideal keybinds, but a lot of it's personal preference anyways. So do whatever feels comfortable to you to rebind them once you get a little bit more practice with it. But to show you the keybinds here, we're going to start with NO for your iron axe, and then you can click it, hold shift and click it, and it'll pull it into your inventory. Now we're going to click back into the bar. This can also be done by pressing your open chat keybind, which is typically bound to T, but I highly recommend rebinding. And then I'm going to, while I'm holding shift, press that Windows button, which we've rebinded from our home key, and it highlights whatever you've typed in there. So this is just a quicker way. Instead of pressing backspace, it allows you to copy the whole thing and then just start typing over it. So we had NO, I press shift Windows key, and then we can start typing BA, for example, and now we can make these iron ingots by doing that. The other ones to go over, we have BO, which is for bucket, shift click, hold shift, Windows key like that. And then we have TH for nether bricks, same thing. We hold shift in order to pull all of these materials. If we're doing a large stack of things, we hold shift when we click this, and then we also hold shift when we take it, which will grab that whole stack as well. We copy this, and then we go LR, which is the golden carrots. We take that, highlight it, space U is wool. So because we have a 2-letter word, that space is what separates it. Shift click it. Now I will just make note when you're doing the wool, so space U, when you shift click this whole stack, if you don't have a bow for whatever reason, instead of just pressing Q, like Gaz said with the search craft, if you press Q, it'll get rid of this, but it won't actually throw a string out. You make sure you click anywhere else first, then press Q or whatever your drop item is, and then you grab the full stack. Now what this does, by throwing that one out, it ensures that you always have enough string for a bow left over, which, I mean, that's another one of our search crafts. So right away with this in here, it wouldn't matter if it's in here or not, but we can do shift home, and then we do BU for the bow, and then bang. So now we have enough for all 5 beds that we wanted to create, and we have enough for that bow off of that one stack of wool. So that's just a cool little trick with that throwing out that Gaz had mentioned, but I guess this is just showing it in practice as well. The other one we're going to do, shift home, we have LO, bowstone. We have shift home RR for the carrots, or for the ingots rather, but we don't have enough ingots to show you guys. Sorry, I should have prepped that. OY for the Eye of Ender. Now instead of search crafting, a lot of the time, people will just pull it in. So a lot of the time they'll have eyes already in their inventory, and they'll have the blaze rods here. So you can pull it up with the hotkey, like I've showed before, grab a full stack out, and then you pull it up with that same hotkey and pull the eye in. And that's like a quick way that people show it, but you'll get a full stack if you do it that way. So if you ever had an excess of rods, like an excess of blaze powder or something, it would make too many Eyes of Ender. I hope that kind of makes sense, but this is why search crafting for the eyes is kind of useful, is because you can just click it 6 times like that, instead of making an abundance of those Eyes of Ender by doing the way that I just showed, if that kind of makes sense. But those are 2 ways to make the same thing. S space is for beds. And then we have, so for the last one on this website, it shows AN, which I just tried to do, but unfortunately we get a lot of junk with that because of the wood that we have. So I guess typically you wouldn't have all this wood left over if you made all the beds, but I could see this being a problem if for whatever reason you didn't get enough explosives for the amount of wood you have. You would still get a bunch of this junk and stuff, right? So this could be a big problem for you. Instead, it shows IV as an option, which might be one that you want to learn instead. It's not the first option on this website, so obviously everything on this website isn't like take it with a grain of salt, I guess. But it's good that that came up, because at least now we can learn that IV is probably a lot more precise with what we're trying to create there.